Thank you. Obviously, it's been a real crazy last couple of days going to the air races. That was my third year. I'm not a pilot. I'm not even really into airplanes. I go with a couple of neighbors that are pilots and really into that kind of stuff as more of a fun thing to do, a way to kind of spend an afternoon, see some really interesting things. Planes going real fast. I'm totally into the whole military world and support those guys. So there's a big presence out there of military, to have what happened the other day happen was just, it was just surrealistic that you'd see something like that. I guess I should it was my third year of going to the air races, and had a really full day. Got there reasonably early. I think we got there about 10 o'clock. Watched, they have as everyone knows, they have the races are set up where I guess the slower planes go at first and the more, I don't know, something like that. And then they work all the way to the end of the day where they have the jet racers and then they have the unlimiteds, which is the last race that the accident happened. And I think they call them unlimiteds. I'm not sure. So during the course of the day, you have all these military things go on. They have this contest of a jet truck, which is very entertaining, and a plane racing, and then you walk around and you get food, and we had I was with some friends who have front row seats, so just going back there and getting front row seats and watching all the activities is a real trip. And then walking around the back, what do they call pit row? Matter of fact, I still have my pit row thing on here. I just noticed this is not the hospital's thing. Check out all a couple of my buddies are kind of, were a lot more mechanically inclined than I am, more that way, and they love that kind of stuff, and they kind of tell me it goes in one ear and out the other for me, really. But I enjoy it, and right before, I guess it's around 4 o'clock, as a matter of fact, I could go back, I got a report. I had a conference call with about a half a dozen people, and this was probably, I think the call was 4 o'clock. So I went out of the facility, and I went and stood in back of a trailer because it was so loud, the plane's going over, and you're on a conference call trying to talk to 6 people, whatever was on the conference call, and they're all saying, where in the hell are you? So I had to tell them I'm at the Reno Air Races, and it's a little noisy. So I ended up having to leave the conference call early just because I was really disrupting everyone else. Got kind of what I needed out of it. And now it gets closer to 4:15, and this unlimited thing starts, and you kind of, by the end of the day, again, because I'm not such an aficionado that I notice everything and I can keep track, and I'm not sure if anyone's been out there, but it is a little confusing because the planes almost go out of sight on where the positioning is and where they all are. So, and especially at the end of the day, you've had a few beers, you've had a few sandwiches and some corn dogs or whatever the hell else I ate, and you're kind of not, you're not totally into it. So I was standing in the aisle between the first row, which is right on the right on the edge, the tarmac, and then the second row. And I was talking to a young lady who lives next door to me who came with us, and then the rest of the guys I was with were in the booth, and they were sitting down. So what I saw, every once in a while you're talking, and what I saw. You check out, and the guy it's blaring. The PA guy is talking real loud. Okay, so and so's in first and second. So you're kind of half paying attention, and then I hear people go, like, ooh, well, or you hear a definite sound in the audience that whoa, and So you kind of get an idea by looking at everyone else what they're looking at. Because during the course of the races, they have these things called May Days. And when someone pulls out, it's not a catastrophe May Day, it's more of a, they're pulling out because they have mechanical problems or whatever they have wrong, and they pull out. So, but in this case, this was like a, wow, what's going on? And by that time, most of the race is out in front of you, where you can kind of see it, right? By that time, the plane was above us, like to the left, and I could see it up there. And you kind of get a feeling, the way I was looking at it, was there's something, because I'm not an expert at planes and that kind of thing, but it just looked like there was lack of control or something was wrong. And then I don't know how long it took, but from that point to where the thing hit was a very short, compressed time. So my mind is not real accurate on how many seconds that actually is. But I do know that when it was coming down, and this looks like it's going to crash. This guy looks like he's not in control, he's going to crash. It was over further to the left of me. I'm facing out now, by 50 yards or so. And as it came down, it's like, wow, look at this. And by that time, the young lady I was talking to, we're looking at it, and I think we just kind of looked. She was actually facing the other way, and we kind of turn around, and then it just somehow, like, because it's going so fast, it veered over, and now it's coming right at us. And so the first thing, and I don't know if this was the right thing to do, but evidently probably not, because a lot of the guys I heard from since, they hit the deck. I ran. For whatever reason, I ran. And a second later, the thing crashes right behind me, and all I remember as I'm trying to run is I see stuff coming, and then that's the last thing I remember. I don't remember anything else, and evidently I was hit on the back of the head by something, and then all the stuff that I have wrong with me is really on the backside. So that's what happened. So the first thing I want to say is that I'm really lucky to be here. I guess there was a lot of carnage. I didn't see any of it because I was out. I saw some of the remnants. I woke up when they were loading me into the helicopter, and I saw some stuff. But even then, I was pretty out of it. And I'm just happy that obviously I've got some issues going on, but I'm talking to everyone. So.
When did you first learn? If you don't mind, what I'd like to do then is offer his wife. She wanted to tell where she was at that point.
Yeah.
And then when she completes it, then if we go up to the obviously questions. Thank you.
Well, I was really impressed because I got a call right away from an EMT that had just loaded Ed onto the Huey to take him to the hospital. And this guy called me, his name was Dr. M, and he said, I said, well, where are they taking him? And he said, I don't know, but he said, I will text you so that because I was in San Diego, and I had to grab a flight real fast to fly out here. And he said, by the time you land, I'll know which hospital he's been taken to. And he texted me and he said, he's been taken to Renown Hospital, and he said, they're the second best trauma center in the country, which put me right at ease. And he told me how to get here, and I picked up my rental car and I drove here, and it was wonderful. I walked in the hospital and they had this reception area with all these counselors and food and coffee and so forth, and just made you feel less stressed out, about this whole thing. And they filled me in on his surgery, and then I went upstairs and he had just come out of surgery, and it was just an incredible experience for something that could have been really horrific. For me and for Ed, it turned out pretty darn good. Ed kept referring to this place as a hotel because he said they were just so accommodating.
So with that, Ed, do you have additional comments, or do you want to go to questions?
I guess we can go to questions. I think I told my little story.
When did you first realize there had been a crash? Did someone, when you woke up, where do you remember beginning?
Oh, when I woke up, I remember everything. It was, you know, I looked back as I'm running, and I could see, and then maybe the last split second, because the guy, I guess, was going very fast. I just, maybe my mind recorded that it crashed, because it was like no more than where that wall is to me, where it's.
I apologize, we came in a little late. Could you just explain what your injuries are?
Oh, I don't think we even talked about my injury, so you're cool. I have I guess the shrapnel, again, everything hit me from behind, and I'm not the fastest runner anymore, so it took out my right Achilles, so I had my Achilles tendon severed, and the calf above that, you know, the description from the doctor was it was pretty much gone, you know, just meat hanging out and muscle, and they had to put that all back together. He said they think they've only lost maybe 8 or 10% of the muscle when they sewed it back up. And then on the left leg, there's just a bunch of cuts. You know, they had to sew it up. I'm not sure how many stitches are down there. And then on the top of my head, I'm not sure how many stitches. I got a lot. But what I think happened is that my head, I've got a hard head anyway, but it must have hit at an angle because, you know, I mean, it could have, you know, penetrated my skull, but it didn't. And then I have a whole bunch of things that hit me in the back. And then evidently whatever hit me in the head, I guess, and I'm kind of imagining things now because I don't remember, is whatever hit me in the head knocked me out. And I landed, I must have been out because I landed like this, so my hands are scarred. And my shoulder, I have a dislocated, where's the displaced shoulder. So that's the thing that really hurts the worst. And then I've got a whole bunch of, you know, contusions and things that are all over my body. And, but, so.
Are they telling you that
Excuse me, I just wanted to say that I was just reminded that Renown is filming this also, and that's what we have Mr. Larson lined up. So in order to capture that, when you say a question, do you either say it really loud, or I'm going to be short and repeat it. Okay, thank you.
my follow-up question was just, what's your rehab going to be like? I mean, will you be walking in soon? Is that going to
No, I think my rehab is, from what I remember, you know, I've been on pain meds now for 3 days, so I'm not really the sharpest knife in the drawer. It's probably going to be 2 months, and I can't use crutches because I dislocated my shoulder, so I have to use a walker. So I'm not, you know, I'm kind of a macho guy, and I'm not crazy about using a walker, but I mean, unfortunately, that's what I have to use.
We're going to let the nurse take care of him just for a minute.
Yeah, that's fine.
We've heard that there appeared to have been an effort on the part of the pilot to steer away from the grandstands where more people were sitting. In the time that you were watching, did you see any evidence of that?
You know, I didn't see the early part of that, so I can't say. All I saw was the end part of it, and that's where it seemed to come right at me. But I mean, that thing was going so fast that it was hard to say, well, what is he avoiding? It was, you know, very, so I really couldn't comment. I've read things, but I can't comment on that.
I was going to ask you.
Can we ask it? Let's Joe.
Oh, and I just wanted to ask you, you know, you talked about you've gone to this event for a few years. There's been discussion after this accident of canceling the air races in Reno permanently. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, I knew you guys would ask that, and that's a good question. I don't think they should cancel it. I mean, it's a great community event. I mean, there's crashes and there's things that happen and there's planes that don't work and there's stuff. And obviously this was a real tragedy, but I think it's a great community event that I certainly enjoy, and I'm not even a pilot type guy. Where I enjoyed it. I would intend to go as many times as I was invited.
Ed, you mentioned that you had some friends
They did. Oh, everyone made it except the young lady that I was with. She had her Achilles severed too. So she was running right next to me. Not sure about when.
Have you had a chance to see any of the amateur video of the crash?
Yeah.
Have you seen any of the videos?
Yes, I have. Oh, yeah, I've seen a lot. You know, because I've gotten, you know, I'm on Facebook and I'm a technology guy anyway. So a lot of my friends send me, you know, immediate. You know, I saw more pictures of me laying on a gurney than I've ever. You know, I mean, okay, this is you, right? You know, so, yeah.
Heather, follow up. When you've seen the video and knowing your injuries, are you surprised that you walked away? Well, you clearly didn't walk away, but that you are as healthy as you are?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, I suppose I'm a bit lucky. You know, I heard some of the guys that were in the booth with me. I only talked to my neighbor, and he talked to them, and they'd hit the deck. Now I know if this ever happens again, hit the deck. Don't run. So they actually went over and saw some of the carnage and stuff right after, you know, which wasn't very pretty. So. Maybe I don't know. Maybe running did save me. I don't know.
This gentleman right there.
Sherry, I'm wondering, when you got that phone call, were you already aware of the races? Can you talk about the plane flight, knowing that he was in the hospital? And can
Yeah,
you talk about?
yeah, I would like to talk about that, actually. I knew that Ed was at the races, but I had heard nothing because I didn't have the radio on or anything. And I got on the plane, and I was sitting next to a guy from the National Guard, and he told me that he had been called in. And he showed me some stats on how many people had been injured and so forth. And there was a doctor sitting next to me who had also been called in. So they kind of let me know what had happened, because I really had no information on it at all.
So let me ask you, what was it like the first time you two saw each other?
Well, I didn't see Ed until he got out of surgery, and it was really a relief to me to see him, you know, because they told me that the plane hit 20 feet away from where Ed was standing, and it was going 500 miles an hour straight down. So, I mean, for him to be alive is amazing.
Another question? Ed, you must have told your story to me well.
Let me just follow up on that. Can you talk about how this has changed you, if it has? What do you look at things differently?
You know, I've been a bit of a risk taker my whole life, not only in business but in sports. I used to fly hang gliders to you know, I still ride bicycles a lot. I have a motorcycle, you know, so you know, it just makes you appreciate to be alive, and that's the first thing I could say is that, you know, I got extremely lucky. I have to go through some rehab. I've done a lot of rehab over the years through other things that nothing this bad, where I've got this many things going on, and I'm also getting older, so things just don't work as well in general. But you know, now that I got to get it fixed, it's probably going to be even harder.
How old are you?
I'm 59.
And sir, you said you were on a conference call with business partners, I
Yes,
assume.
right.
What business are you in?
I'm in the telecommunications business, in teleconferencing. Actually, I'm a startup guy, so I do all sorts of different telecommunications startups. I'm still part of a startup in Colorado. So.
They must have been frantic, knowing that you were at the air races and that you cut out of the call early.
Yeah, they called me.
They did
actually.
call, but you know, everyone kind of caught up after, because when the people that knew that I was at the air races, obviously, and then no one, of course, knew that I was, you know, right at ground zero.
Well, and the other thing that happened was he got separated. All 5 of them that were together got separated, and no one knew where the other one was.
I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know anything about my bikes.
Box seats in relation to the crash site.
You know, I tried to. The only picture I saw today was our box is number 50, and it was just where there's 2 sets of speakers, and the guy standing in the middle of the speakers. If you're looking out again, the speakers that are to the right of that were kind of right in front of that. So the crash looked like today looking at it on YouTube and stuff, looked like it was kind of in the middle of those separation speakers. So 20 feet, at least that's a debris field. You know, debris fields kind of go like that, but yeah.
Okay, one last question maybe, because we're getting to Ted's time. I know he's getting tired.
I know you were knocked unconscious, but any sense of sort of the scene there as far as the chaos or the confusion, or was it better by the time you were on the phone?
All I saw was a real coordinated effort, and I had my senses, even though I'd been knocked silly, there were other people that were needy, especially on the this Huey helicopter they flew me on, that I had just seen this helicopter as part of the display, which is really cool. It was the display at the military part of the thing, right? And the guy who was showing this old Vietnam veteran, I mean, not old, he's a little bit older than me probably, that was showing how to use it. He was the pilot. It was very cool on how everyone was, because, you know, there were so many personnel there that knew what they were doing because there's so many military guys. And I thought it was remarkable from what I saw. Again, I was unconscious there for a while. And then when I got here, everything has been very nice. So.